Hello, welcome to the Substance Abuse Prevention Day. I am Christina Luna and I am a Wellness Case Manager at the Tucson Indian Center. Today I'm excited because we will have personal testimonies from two community members here at TIC, followed by a meditation. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Dora Renkert. I've been coming to the Tucson Indian Center, I know for sure, since I was 12. Ganatam, born and pretty much raised in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm 5 years in recovery. I got sober March 19, 2016. I had a staycation here and crashed. And I had drugs and alcohol in my system. I had my daughter and her best friend in the car, and they both got hurt. I went to jail, and my kids were taken away, and I've been in recovery ever since. They're older now. My daughter is 16, and she's doing well. She's a cheerleader. But I did have to go through DCS. I chose to do family drug court because it's amazing. It's such a great program. I highly recommend it. The system doesn't want us to have our kids taken away. They don't want us to be in these situations, but we don't realize what we're doing. And all those programs that they have out there, all the classes you have to do, they really benefit you. They benefited me immensely. I've been volunteering here at the Tucson Indian Center since I was 12 years old. Volunteering and being part of the community has always been a high priority in my life. I've done many programs here at the Indian Center throughout my years. I've been a client forever, like from free diapers to Fright Night, Seeds of Wellness, so many. I can't even claim them all. But Indian Center has always been here for me. Since recovery, I've been able to be part of Native Sisters in Recovery, participate in White Bison, and do American Indians in Recovery. And even during the pandemic, when our group has shrunk, there's still a solid recovery vibe. It's always been there. I've gotten to meet a lot of people, and part of my recovery, I've gotten to grow a business. I'm a business owner now. I own a salon. I volunteer not just in the Indian community, but also in Tucson community. I'm currently working with Arts Express at the Park Place Mall. I do theater stuff. I couldn't have gotten that if I wasn't sober. I don't know if anybody has ever put like a limit on themselves, but I think I always did. I always put a limit on what I could do because I thought, oh, I can't do that because I don't have a vehicle. I can't do that because, I'm a single mom, and all these things that it was just shame. And in recovery, you start to learn to let go of that shame and embarrassment. You grow, and you get to be nourished and supported. There's so many things I've learned about myself. I love coming here, doing devotionals, building my circle, seeing other people rise up. I have so many friends that I've gotten to see that were on the streets, and now we're doing stuff. Like literally started from the bottom, now we're here. Recovery does that. It's changing lives. It's helping us natives not be those drunk Indians anymore. And I don't know what else is to come, but I've seen so many of us do better. I used to volunteer with a lady here, and now she's a pastor. She has her own church. That's amazing. I've seen people get their kids back. I've seen people kids have died and they're living and they're letting go and they're going through their grief, because those things happen. You don't have to relapse. You don't have to use. You don't have to go down that path. I was newly 5 years sober and my granny was dying and I wanted to relapse. So Sanavir Behavioral Health was who I called, and I did IOP and I got through it. But my meetings here at the Tucson Indian Center, they really helped. Okay, so getting to utilize Sanavir's behavioral health, finishing, what was it called? Relapse prevention. That was helpful. And then I come here for my regular meetings because this is something that, it's a daily thing, regardless if you have all these years of sobriety, like it creeps up. And for me, it did. I didn't know how to deal with death without drinking. And that's usually the go-to in a lot of cocaine to get through all the preparations. So to not have those, I didn't know how to deal with death. I didn't want to face certain family members. It was just stressful, and I used my tools. And that was really, really good. I got a lot out of that. So I'm really excited that the Tucson Indian Center is going to be having their own behavioral health, because it's highly, highly needed for us. If you don't know what's wrong and you know something needs to be fixed, but you don't want to do counseling, you're afraid of therapy, behavioral health is a good step to get into those things. You don't have to feel like something's wrong with you. Everybody has issues. We're all a mental mess. And just like we brush our teeth and we shower every day, that's how we have to take care of our mind. It's not an embarrassing thing. We can let go of that shame. It's not a white thing. We can be healthy Native people, but we have to do these things, and that's something that I had to learn. And recovery taught me that. So with my sobriety date, March 19, 2016, that started my recovery journey. Crashing and physically hurting my daughter and her best friend was an eye-opener. I knew I had to change the way I was living. I didn't know exactly what to do, but when you get involved with DCS, or when DCS gets involved in your life, you have a team meeting, and it's TMM, I can't remember what it stands for, but they get this big old dry erase board, they have this meeting, you can have people come from your family and talk about, like, you know, whether you do have a problem or you don't. And something that I learned that day was that we minimize. I didn't even know what that word, I knew what the word meant, but I didn't know how it applied to how I think, how I minimize the little things and I maximize the petty things, how just family things, I was like, well, that's how my family is. You know, and justifying it or having to defend those things and realizing that's not the way it's supposed to be. But they put on the dry erase board AA. They put all these classes. They asked, what do you do? And in my eyes, I was like, I've been volunteering since I was a little girl. I involve my children in all these things. This one's in that, this one's in that. I have a roof over my head. I have a career. I have everything, right? But there was still stuff wrong. Like, I didn't realize the damage I was doing. I didn't realize the neglect that I was putting my children through. I didn't see the self-harm that I was doing, self-sabotaging, getting to a certain extent of success, and then that fear, just sabotaging it. And then starting over. And I knew all my resources. I knew to go to the Indian Center. I knew how to get on food stamps. I knew what I needed for Section 8. I knew how to look things up on the internet. I loved all kinds of motivational speakers. Jay Shetty, Tony Robbins, Tom Bilyeu, all these people. I nourished myself, but I didn't, because I was destroying myself with drugs and alcohol. Alcohol being my drug of choice, and everything else is party favors, and then having family members that are literally living on the streets, them telling you that you don't have a problem, me thinking I don't have a problem, everybody else seeing me that I don't have a problem because I can articulate my words and my children get straight A's and all these things, yet I still had a problem. So it's not that I wasn't doing well, it's just I wasn't doing my best. And that was a very humbling experience. So once I did get into recovery and got that spiritual program down, not completely, but just, an awareness of what it is, what it brings, that's when things started to change for the better. And it's tough because that healing is raw. There's no numbing. But even then I found a way. We start to find other ways to numb that pain, whether it's with people, other places. I would avoid home. I would just go to like 17 meetings a day and not want to be home. I couldn't sit with myself. And I learned to do that calmingly, reluctantly. It just happens. I get to grow. I get to learn what works and what doesn't. I get to set boundaries. And something that was really cool that I got to do with more purpose was my mornings. Doing a daily devotional prayer and meditation in the morning. My daughter remembers being a little girl and my alarm going off because that's when I would meditate. This was before recovery. And even then, what are you doing, Dora? There's something still going on. This was not enough. These are the things that I tell myself, when you find this program, there's still more work to be done. And that was something that I was really gravitating towards. Now I have a group of people that are doing the things that I'm doing, a group of people that care and want to read the daily reflections or just for today and all these other ones that I get to read, and reading my Bible, reading Proverbs, having that time with God. I tithe my time every day to God. And that's cool. I give him that first 10%. And it feeds me throughout the day. It's amazing. That's something that I didn't do before. I'm I believe in God. Yeah, I go to church. Yeah, my kids, they have all their sacraments. Yeah, this, yeah, that. There wasn't that true connection, that true relationship. And it grows. And I got that in recovery. And it's beautiful. So something recovery has taught me is that it's one day at a time. I don't have to rush my life. I don't have to feel like it's all planned out. My parents split up when I was really young, and my mom didn't know how to drive. So I've been raised on the Tucson bus system. Suntran has been the city limo of my life, and still is, honestly. I don't have my license still. That got taken away, and I do get to try and get it back soon. But that taught me time management when I was really young, and I was very resourceful throughout my years because of things like that. There's flyers on the bus or at the bus station, and been really good at always getting what I needed. And Indian Center has helped out with that, from the diapers to the youth programs. I had mentioned Seeds of Wellness. Back in the day, you could just come and volunteer using the gym stuff that they have, everything. And it was cool because you get this case manager, you set up a case plan, you do all these things, and it helps. And that was something that even La Frontera had told me, okay, you're doing what you need to do, you're good. But was I? I was still struggling. I had so much trauma as a kid, so much trauma as a young adult. And I didn't know how to deal with it without drinking. and that's the norm, you know. So for me, it was like, well, what's missing? You know, am I doing enough? To most I was, and it got me through. But if I knew half of what I needed then, I wouldn't have had to suffer for so long, you know? And I see young people, and I just want to like give them all these resources all the time. Like, hey, do you need this? Or do you know this? Are you familiar with this? Because I was blessed with a person who used to work here at the Tucson Indian Center when she was young. And she showed me how to get a midwife. She told me where to volunteer, told me how to get a food box, told me all these things. And it was good, but that's like just enough to keep doing what you're doing. It wasn't, thank you. It wasn't giving me a life, it was helping me cope with the life that I was living. And recovery has taught me to live not only with higher standards, but higher values. I have values, and I know what they are. I have boundaries, and I know what they are. I have all these tools, and I know what they are. Recovery teaches you tools. Pick up the phone, call your sponsor, call a friend, closed mouth friend, go have coffee, hit a meeting, take a walk, write out your resentment, all these things that you learn in recovery. And it's not shameful. These things need to get out. You have to release them. And now I know how to release and make room for the good now. I don't have to hold all that baggage anymore. I can put it down and let it go. And I understand what let go and let God means. It's not like let it go, no big deal, turn a blind eye to it. It's understand that that's in your past. You can grow from that. You can learn from that. Let it go. It's different. And I love that. Yeah. So in closing, I just encourage you all to find yourself. And if you don't know how to find yourself, start here at the Indian Center. I can't wait until they have the behavioral health. I would love to meet you one day, maybe at a meeting. Native Sisters in Recovery is on Thursdays. Also White Bison is on Thursdays, one at 4:15, one at 5:30, and then 8:30 a.m. is American Indians in Recovery every Friday. Love yourself, find yourself, build on self-love, and take it one day at a time. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Victoria Luis Salazar. I'm of Mexica and Yaqui descent from Mexico. I grew up in Nogales, Arizona. I was born on the fall equinox, September 21st, 1968. I always grew up identifying as Mexican predominantly, and that's how I was acculturated. And in my hometown, I grew up in a lot of fear. I had a home that was quite dysfunctional, and I didn't know what that word meant, growing up, and I would hear this word off and on, but it was basically a fear-based system, and there was a lot of verbal abuse, physical abuse towards me, because I was different. I'm the lightest in the family, kind of a rebel. And it was the same in my neighborhood and at school, so I experienced a lot of violence very early on. And so there's trauma there, with all of that I'm comfortable with now. It doesn't affect me. I've healed up from it. And so I grew up in a lot of fear. That's the thing that I remember the most. I was always in fear. always felt uncomfortable in social atmospheres in the family, always felt unwanted, unloved, often neglected. Even though my family had material means for a lot of things, we had good dentistry, we had good health care, we had education, we had a house. A lot of my friends that didn't have so much would come to my house and raid our refrigerator, and my parents were always good with that. It was like the norm. Didn't have to knock, you just walk in. And there were good things in my neighborhood, you could walk around, people would be walking in afternoons, and you see the little old ladies watering their plants in the yard or the dirt. And you would talk and have coffee or whatever. But also what went through my family and the community was alcohol. It was present all the time. Even things that I don't remember, but I can see pictures of my baptism and such, and my 1-year birthday party. There's people standing around having drinks, my aunties, my uncles, our neighbors, our friends. And I grew up with alcohol all the time around us. And when I was small, they would offer it, taste this, here, try that, and it didn't agree with me. I was like, ugh, it's very nasty. Didn't like the taste until I went to a big family wedding in Hermosillo, Sonora, and in Mexico. And it was a huge warehouse, and it was all decked out. They had scotch on every table, champagne on every table, the music, the flowers, everything was beautiful. And so myself and my cousins started indulging in the champagne, and the adults didn't care. Like, yeah, it's just champagne, you can have that. And I got drunk, and I felt a lot of that fear went away from me. My inhibitions went away from me, and then I was feeling kind of sick, so they took me to the hotel room, and I got the bed spins. I didn't know that you could put your foot down on the ground and that would stop that, but I learned that trick later on from an older girl in my neighborhood. So, I was trying to figure out this drinking thing already. And I remember the next day driving home, we're coming back to Nogales, and I'm watching the scenery go by outside, and I was thinking to myself, wow, that was great, but I better not do too much or I might become an alcoholic. So the type of thinking was already there. It was already there. The alcohol is just a symptom of the disease that I have, alcoholism. I had a lot of good times. Right before 12 is where I got suicidal. I was sort of suicidal, didn't fit in anywhere, and I really was. It was a couple days before my 12th birthday, and I was thinking how I was going to do that. But then I remembered that my dad had a full bar, and I could get some of that booze, and maybe that would make me feel good, make me feel better. And it did, and so it saved me. The alcohol became my savior for a time. It was my hero, but over time, of course, it became my abuser. So in high school, I played around with marijuana when I couldn't get booze. I learned, of course, I lived on the border, so if I really wanted to go get drunk, I could ditch school and go with a group of friends. We could go to the bar and have 25-cent beers and 50-cent tequila shots, and we'd take a shot and have a drink of beer, and then get drunk. And I remember the first time I did that, I thought I was fine after doing 3 beers and 3 shots. I thought I was feeling okay until I stood up and fell straight down backwards, and the lady was very mad. The bartender kicked us out. And so it was just one of those adventures that I had. And then I made it back to school, caught the bus to go to work, because I used to work in the family business after school. From the time of 6 years old, I was always helping at the business. Very rarely I got to do like school activities and stuff like that, and sports here and there a little bit, but it was always a war with my father. I went into the military because that's what I dreamed of doing. A lot of the men in my family, that's what they do. When they come of age, they serve the country. And I thought that that's what I was going to do, and thought I was going to make a career out of it. Initially tried to get into the Army, but they never answered my call. The Marines wanted me, but I ended up signing up with the Navy at the end. And in there, you know, I had a really good career. I made rank quickly. I found out that I wasn't stupid like I was told my whole life. A lot of things, a lot of negative things. You know, I had very low self-esteem, and I thought this would be the place that I would prove myself. And there was a couple times with drinking that I got in trouble for it, you know, while I was in there. And there was some times that I didn't get in trouble, but I had a lot of shame over it because I had a very important watch, for example, Damage Control Central. Just the name of that tells you how important that watch was for the whole ship. If anything went wrong, I was the person that was gonna get the first calls and get the ball rolling for how to deal with whatever fire or flooding or whatever was going on, chemical warfare, you know, all this kind of stuff I was trained in. But I had been drinking all night before, and I was answering my keys, you know, when the phone would ring, and the other guy across the way took over my phone for me. And you know, that wasn't good. You know, it was out of control, my drinking. You know, so when I got out, it had progressed a lot because every day that I had off, we got drunk. And when I got out of the military, I had a little money saved, and I stayed drinking every day, pretty much round the clock. You know, and I had a telephone and an answering machine, and relatives knew that I came back from the war and I was in the States, and they were calling, and I was hearing the phone calls and hearing the answering machine kicked in, and I didn't want to answer the phone because I was just really, really drunk. I didn't want them to hear my speech being slurred and such. So they sent a cousin with a one-way ticket to go get me and bring me back to Nogales. And we drove all the way back down there, and it was in the summer, and I filled the floorboards of my truck with ice and beer for the trip. And so we were drinking beers all the way coming down the highway from Bremerton, Washington, all the way down to Nogales, Arizona. And I remember getting out of the truck and empty beer cans spilling out. My father was there, and he was just shocked. He couldn't believe that. What are you doing? You know, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I thought it was normal. You know, I thought that's the way you live life. So I came to Tucson to get an education because I didn't want to stay at the family business. I had a lot of pressure from the family. It's a very Mexican thing where you all work together in the family and this kind of stuff, you know. And I didn't want to because it was low pay, and he was super verbally abusive and was continuously humiliating me, even as a grown man at the time. So I came to Tucson to get an education, and I ended up getting married. And right before I got married, I got sober. The drinking had took me down to a very low spot. I was continuously having blackouts. And after about a 4 or 5 day binge, one morning I came to, and I didn't know where I was. So I kept my breathing really shallow because this had happened to me before, waking up in strange places, and looking around, and I was actually back in my apartment. And I felt horrible, couldn't hardly remember anything for the last 4 or 5 days. Tried to rinse my face off, tried to eat something. There wasn't a lot of food in the house. There was like some bread and butter, so I made toast out of it because everything else was spoiled that was in there. Couldn't get it down, could hardly get water down. And I felt horrible. It was a major bottom for me. I hit my knees. And I've always been a spiritual person, always been in touch with a lot of things like that. So I talked to my higher power at the time, and I bawled my eyes out. I begged my higher power, I begged Creator, I begged him, please, please stop this insanity. Get me sober. I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it anymore. And I need sober friends because all my friends and relatives seem to bring me back down every time I try to get clean. I need sober people. And I felt a beautiful light enter me in like a a flame, like a whirlwind, like a rush of water. I don't know how else to explain it. And made all my hair stand up on me. I thought, wow, I think the higher power, finally just heard me, and something good is going to happen. But within 4 hours, I reached up into the cabinet, and I always had a gallon of something stashed up there, and it was a gallon of Jack Daniels, and I proceeded to get drunk, even though I had a very profound spiritual experience. So over the next 2 or 3 months, it began to dawn on me that I wasn't going to be able to do this by myself. And I had a friend call me, and he's having trouble stopping drinking, and I guess he was into pills, he said, at the same time. And I told him, well, I don't know how to do that, but come over to my house tomorrow and we'll talk about it. And he did, and we were discussing how to get sober over a fifth of tequila and a joint, like I'd done 1,000 times before. And during that drinking, we did decide to call AA, because a friend of my father's, who is still sober today, has more years sober than I do alive on this planet. He went to AA, that's all I knew. I knew about his drinking story from others, that it was really bad, and that he went to AA and got sober, and he would come to our parties, and he was the only one that wasn't drinking, and he plays beautiful guitar, and he was very happy. How can you be happy without drinking? It was always a mystery to me. So we did call, they told us where a meeting was, we went to the wrong place. We got on the payphone and called the central office again, and they told us where a meeting was. When I got to that meeting, I felt home. There was a big meeting in a church, maybe 50 people in there, and they were laughing and joking and talking about their experiences, and I thought, wow, and I related to it. I even introduced myself as a newcomer. I got a chip for 24 hours. My friend got one. And I thought, well, this is really great, but you know what? I'm just going to take off from here, And there was people waiting at the door at the end of the meeting that didn't let us leave right away. And I'm glad they were there. They wanted to talk to us. They had meeting schedules for us, and they circled the meetings that we're going to, and when I went to those meetings, they were there, the same people at different meetings around town. They had their phone numbers in there. When I called, they told me to pick up the phone before I picked up a drink, and they were there. They would answer the phone, and they would talk to me, and give me some kind of advice on how to get through the next 5 minutes. Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. And they told me to go to a meeting every day. They said that I should find a closed-mouthed friend who I related to, that knew the big book, knew the steps, had long-term sobriety, preferably over 5 years, and we're walking the talk type of thing, and to stick with the winners. And I did, and it was working beautiful, except that I didn't know that I had I do have to this day, chronic PTSD with a sleep disorder, and I also had bipolar disorder, and these things I wasn't ready to look at the time. Definitely didn't want to go to the government to ask for help, to the VA, like my counselors were telling me, because I was unemployable. Every 6 months I was losing work, even though I was sober. My mind was on a very wild roller coaster, and I really had to depend on my higher power a lot. I had gotten onto the red road at 19, so I was going to sweat lodges, and when I came to Tucson, I was a little bit lost there. I was trying to find a place to pray, because I started to, I didn't start to, I basically rejected I grew up Catholic and Episcopalian, and I even was with the Baptists for a long time, and it just didn't work for me. And when I met the Yakima people up in Washington, I started going to sweat lodges with them, and I got on the red road. So in Tucson, while I was in AA, I ran into other Native people, and they were like, "We're going to this sweat, and you want to come with us?" And I did, and I went with Grandfather Hawk, who is half Dene and half Lakota, and he does things Lakota way. And eventually I asked the clan mother, at the time, permission to learn things and to pray under him. And I did for 12 years. They adopted me, taught me a lot of ceremonies and things that they were allowed to, and I only do the things that I have permission, that they gave me permission to do. And it helped a lot, and became my whole life, my whole life, devoted to doing that and helping them with the ceremonies. And then later I was out sharing the ceremonies myself. And I thought, well, AA, the whole point of AA is to have a spiritual experience. I says, I'm doing spiritual work all the time. I'm working with others all the time. I don't need those meetings, And I ran like that for about 2 years and still had untreated mental issues, because I was listening to people in the program that said, no mind-altering substances. Well, actually in the big book, it talks about the newcomer should get the help of a psychiatrist just to see if things are okay. You might not have a mental disorder, but you might. Just being an alcoholic is a mental disorder in of itself. And having their help is very valuable, a good therapist, and also having a doctor. So here I am with a beautiful family, doing spiritual things, not going to AA, successful business, family is wonderful for the most part. Kids are growing up in a totally different environment than I did, all given to me because I stayed sober. And I was with a lovely client that made me a meal, and at the end of it, she said, would you like a shot of tequila? Because I understand that you Mexicans like to have a shot of tequila at the end of the meal. And I relapsed. I drank the tequila, and slowly, I didn't get drunk that day, but slowly but surely I got to that point again. So the night before I got sober this time, I had thrown in the towel totally. I was like, that's it. That's my life. I'm just gonna stay drunk 24 hours a day. Lost all hope. Lost all hope. And during that time, I called a veteran that was in the newspaper and looked him up in the phone book, because I had a lot of veterans issues, and I was getting to the point where I was getting willing to get help for that. And so I called him, and he says, your speech is slurred. Have you been drinking? And I said, well, yes, I have. And he says, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. You can't be with these issues and drinking. He said, you gotta get sober. And I was like, well, I don't know where any meetings are. And he said, that's effing BS. You can call the central office. They'll tell you where the first meeting is in the morning, and you're gonna go to it. He 12-stepped me. He ended up being a friend of Bill Wilson's and Dr. Bob's, a member, 20 years member of Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't my plan to get sober. It was the higher power thing again doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. That prayer that I said so many years ago to get sober and to have friends that were sober was answered twice. And at first I wasn't grateful. I was like, man, I have to do big book again. I have to go to meetings again. I have to do the steps again. Have to. Biggest lie we ever tell ourselves, have to. We either choose to do it or we choose not to do it. So I had to start choosing love. I came from a fear-based, ego-driven system, and with resentments and all that kind of stuff going on, and angers and selfishness, self-pity, jealousy, envy. I had all these kinds of things going on. That was the whole fear-based system. I needed to come towards the love-based system, which is the will of a higher power, whatever that is. And I've been learning all about that on the Red Road for all these years, but it was time to get back into that. And so now I have 15 years clean and sober. And along with it, I got involved with white bison and Sobriety in different groups in Tucson. They would sprout up for a little while and then disappear, sometimes at the Indian Center, sometimes at a different meeting location. And yeah, it goes really in depth, and I never got the chance to work the steps the white bison way, because we would have our talking circles, which is great. It was all great, and we would go to ceremonies, NAC meetings, sweat lodges, same stuff I was doing anyway. Vision quests, things like this, Sundance. And but I never saw the literature myself personally, and it's only been recent that I got into the literature, and I've been approached 2 different times to chair white bison. And the second time I was like, this is what the higher power wants. I need to be doing this. We could use another white bison, in Tucson. I'll do it. And I knew also that I was to do it with an elder, my co-chair, Joe Henry from the Tohono Nation, and he's been wonderful. He has a lot of long-term sobriety, and he brings a lot to our circle. So I was taught a very simple and powerful meditation from Grandfather Curtis of the Kaw Nation. He came into the VA hospital when I was in treatment there this time around, and he passed this on to me. He used to come to town regularly. The VA would pay him, and he had a sweat lodge out in the Marana area, and I used to help him. He would have all the medical staff and anybody that wanted to come, to pray. And when he lost that place, he would come to our house, to our lodge, and he would pour water there. I've since lost contact with him because they stopped sending him around the country, I believe. So, but anyway, I'm very grateful to him for this meditation. Our ancestors knew a lot about the rainbow. A lot of medicine people, they'll even draw it on their drums and stuff that represents our travel into our real home. There's an unseen world and a seen world, and that unseen world is real. And this meditation that I'm going to take you through is real. It's a real place. And the more times that we do it, the more comfortable we get at doing it, the more real and vivid it becomes. And some people, it's very natural and they pick up on it quickly, and they have very profound experiences. And others, it takes time. It takes time, and it doesn't matter. There's no competition here, and you will get to where you need to get in your own time. With that being said, I'm going to take you through this meditation, and what we do is we go through the different colors of the rainbow, and we start with one color and then go to the next and the next and the next. And with each color, we go into a more calm, relaxing, peaceful state. And that's how we go in. And then when we come out, we go into a more and more awake state where we're here in the conscious world. So for some of us, that are more into the science thing, we're working with the ever conscious and such things, and then people who are more spiritually grounded, we're working with the spirit or the spirit world. With that being said, I like to start out with 3 deep breaths, in through the nose and out through the mouth. This is to oxygenate ourselves and to get us grounded. At this time, I would like you to visualize white clouds. You're surrounded by them. They're in front of you, all around you. And you walk through these clouds until you come to a place where there is a beautiful rainbow. The first color we are going to go through is red. Imagine it like a red sunset. And when you start to walk through this color, you become more calm, more relaxed, more at peace. Then we walk through orange, the color of an orange. Yellow, the color of a lemon. Green, the color of a field, more relaxed, more at peace. Blue, the color of the sky. And violet, we see the clouds again. And when they separate, we are in a beautiful paradise. Perfect, beautiful nature. Down to our right, there's a stream. And this stream has the power to cure all things physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So we walk down to this stream. We stand at its edge, remove our shoes, and ask permission of the stream for us to enter there and receive a healing. Having had asked permission, we walk into the stream and we feel the water going over our feet. And as we observe this beautiful water sparkling in the sun, it turns into a violet color, a healing color. And it begins to wash through our feet all the negativities and hurts and pains away from our feet. Everything it touches, it heals. And this water will not hurt you. It's only there to heal you. The water begins to rise up to your ankles, healing that area, your calves, your knees, washing away all the pains and hurts from there, negativities washing away, upper thighs, your hips, the stomach area, taking away all that emotional stress. Up to the chest, taking away all that repression, negativities, shoulders and throat, your mouth, ears and nose, eyes cleansing all, forehead, and then out of the top of your frontella, the water flows out as a great fountain, whooshing, just taking all those impurities away, exhilarating your soul, making you feel beautiful again. And then the water begins to subside down to the front of your forehead, your eyes, and your nose, mouth, throat, shoulders, chest, hips, thighs, knees and shins, ankles. The water turns back to the color of water. You step out of the stream, put on your shoes, and give it thanks for the healing that you have received, the cleansing you have received. At this point, it's time to go back to the glitter world, the physical world. So you walk back to where the clouds are. You step into the clouds and you're surrounded by them. And as you walk, you see the rainbow again. And this time you're going to go from the relaxed world into the physical world. And you pass through violet, blue like the sky, green like the field, becoming more conscious, more aware of the physical. The yellow of the lemon, the orange of the orange, the red of the red of the sunset, the clouds, and then you open your eyes.
Skuggsjärig. Anyanam chugik danika yumjian. Anyana abjad chuksan. I'm so excited to be here at the Tucson Indian Center. A little bit about me. I am Falunalatham in Milligan. I will be graduating from Falunalatham Community College in spring 2022. Shout out to my fellow Jogos. I will be starting my undergraduate law program at the University of Arizona in summer of 2022. And I'll be minoring in American Indian Studies. I love Tucson because our Jod, which is the O'odham word for land, is absolutely beautiful. The cacti, I'm an avid cacti cultivator, so being able to see the cactus outdoors is nice. Great hiking opportunities, whether it's Mount Lemmon, whether it's driving out to Waukewooluk, southern Arizona, and by extension Tucson has some great hiking. We have the best restaurants in the state, but also Tucson is a very multicultural city. We're actually a UNESCO culinary heritage site. Prior to joining Tucson Indian Center, I worked for Falunalatham Community College. I've also worked in a diverse area of industries, logistics and supply chain, retail, manufacturing, and the restaurant industries. I also apprenticed for a falconer. That was really cool, being able to hang out with birds of prey. I had a really athletic childhood. I played softball, soccer, ran track through high school. Today, I do hiking, I lift weights, and I like to go to Tillamook every Saturday morning. Fun fact, I've lived in Seattle, Boston, Los Angeles, and Scottsdale, and obviously Chickasaw. This is my family. So my father is O'odham, and he lives here in Tucson. My mother is Milligan, and she lives in Massachusetts. I have one brother, one half-sister, and 3 stepsisters. My brother lives in New Orleans, and my half-sister lives in Washington, D.C. My 3 stepsisters live here, though. I have a dog named Gunner, who's 12 years old. That's him right there. And I also have 28 different cacti that I grow, and I consider them my family as well. All right, this is the fun slide. So my favorite foods and snacks are, I like Greek, Indian, and Japanese and O'odham cuisine. In my snack time, I enjoy popcorn, pistachios, and cheese, because who doesn't love cheese? My favorite movies, I'm a huge sci-fi person, so I have to say Blade Runner and Aliens. My hobbies, as I mentioned, I'm really into gardening. I like hiking, reading, and hunting with my dad. My favorite restaurants in town, I'd have to say it's a tie between Saffron Indian Bistro and Yoshimatsu. And then my favorite books, now this was a really hard question for me because I love reading, but I'd have to say Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Solko and Dune by Frank Herbert. All right, so these are some of my goals for the next few months as I get comfortable and situated in this role. The first thing I'd like to bring to the Tucson Indian Center is the Indigenous Book Club. I think it's very important for Indigenous people to see themselves reflected in the media they consume, and one of the ways that I want to do that is through books. There is a new renaissance of Native American authors, and I'm excited to share my knowledge, but also talk about some of my favorite books and some of your favorite books in the book club. So stay tuned for more details about that. I love being outdoors, and I know a lot of you do as well. So I plan on having some outdoor fitness events, having some guest speakers come out, and starting up a run-walk club. And then also, I'd like to bring in some interesting guest speakers with fun demonstrations. There's been a lot of people who've been very influential in my life that I'd like to share with the Tucson Indian Center and our wonderful clients. Well, thank you for your time. I'm excited to be here. And as always, you can reach out to me at the Tucson Indian Center, either by my email address, or you can call me, and my extension is 2239. That hope.
Hello everyone. My name is Dora Renkert and I'm the Wellness Operations Manager here at Tucson Indian Center. I just want to say thank you for tuning in for our virtual Native American Family Wellness Day event, and I hope that you enjoyed all days and all the events and activities that we've got to share with you virtually and soon in the care packages that you will all be receiving for those who have signed up and reside in Pima County. For the 250 who first signed up will receive those incentives. I just wanted to share in closing our sobriety support groups that we have here at Tucson Indian Center. And if you don't know, Tucson Indian Center is located downtown at 160 North Stone Avenue. So in the next slide, I will be sharing information on sobriety groups that we have, as well as who to contact. Currently, Tucson Indian Center offers 4 different sobriety support groups, and starting with Thursdays at 4:15 to 5:15, we have our Native Sisters. White Bison is 5:30 to 6:30 on Thursday, and Friday we have 2 AA meetings, one in the morning at 8:30 to 9:30, and one in the afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. As mentioned, to partake in our sobriety support groups, you will be contacting our Wellness Case Manager, Christina Luna, at 520-884-7131, extension 2229, or you could send an email to cliuna@ticenter.org. We do have a 9 persons limit per group, so please call ahead, email her ahead if you would like to partake in our sobriety support groups to save your spot. Thank you everybody who has watched and participated in our virtual Native American Family Wellness Day event. I hope next year our Native American Family Wellness Day event will be fulfilled in person and we get to see you all and just be together once again. Until then, continue to stay safe, follow the COVID-19 guidelines to prevent COVID-19, and remember that we are all here for you as a support, whether if it's through a phone call, an email, or if you need to come in and schedule a one-on-one with somebody, feel free to do so. Until then, have a good one, and we will see you all soon.